All right, we're gonna get into some basic neck mobility. First step is just to get some what we call joint-to-joint movement in the neck. So you're gonna tuck the chin and look up to the ceiling, look down to the floor. We're just gonna do 5 reps each way. And your neck movement, think of it, every time you move your body, you're stimulating the brain, but where the majority of that stimulation is coming from the spine, and then the biggest part of that's coming from the neck. So doing neck mobility throughout your day is it's like supercharging your brain. So just ear to shoulder. In our first week, we went through 6 movements of the neck. Today, we're just going to do 3. Looking over the shoulder. Okay, you can be looking to see, okay, is it more challenging to go one way versus the other? You can just lock that away in your brain somewhere where you can come back and focus on it. Next move we're going to work on is actually how to increase that curvature of your neck. So you're going to look over your shoulder up to the ceiling. Look over your shoulder up to the ceiling. We're going to do that 5 times. Now if you find that this is uncomfortable, you might feel a little bit of discomfort in the neck, just go easy. You don't need to break any records today. If you do this multiple times a day, for the next couple of weeks, it'll improve. Now, if you feel like a little bit unstable when you're doing that one, you might actually feel a little bit dizzy. We can actually use the hands and traces, actually a nice way to connect the head movement and the shoulder movement. So just bring your hands out in front, and we're going to focus on our eyes on the thumb, and we're just going to trace as we raise that arm up overhead, and then we can do the same thing on the other side. So for me, I like to do 5 where I just move the neck, and then I do 5 like this. It's a nice way to reorganize the neck and shoulder movements. And again, very stimulating for the brain. So 5 each side. Good, then we're just gonna get into the shoulder movement itself. So we're gonna raise the arms right overhead, bring the hands, can't see my hands, but they're touching at the top, elbows straight, biceps to the ears. Okay, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna go 10 reps here. And again, pay attention. You may find that one side, you may get up to here and it's like, oh, I can't get that left arm up. So just make note of that, and then over time we wanna see that improves. Ultimately, your brain loves symmetry. So we want symmetry of the movement. One more. Okay, so 10 total reps there. We're gonna get into some upper spine mobility. So first we're gonna do is round the back. Fortunately, this is probably really familiar to most of us. Then we're gonna open up the chest, pull the hands back, stick the chest up to the ceiling, open-hearted, round, bring the shoulders in, round the back, open up, just 5 of those. Okay, nice one to do to break up your sitting if you're at your workstation all day. Great. Okay, now we're going to get down on the ground. Dr. Craig's going to come in and help coach us through it. You can see. I have to move the. Oh, yes, that's good. Perfect. We're going to get into the bridge.
Okay, so the first exercise that we're going to do is actually, so flip over on your stomach. We're going to do what's called child's pose.
Yeah.
So starting off on all 4s, what Dr. John is going to do is he's actually going to just let his body sink down so his hips fall between his feet. And we're just going to stay in that nice relaxed position. Okay, so in that position, if he wants, he can take a deep breath in that position. As he exhales, he's going to sink down a little bit deeper into that position. If he wants, he can rock back and forth from left to right, just so they start mobilizing those hips. This is a fantastic stretch for the low back and into the hips. If he wants, he can come in and out of that position and rock back in and out. So if you find that it's too intense for pressure in the knee or even pressure in the low back, you can rock in and out of position. Try to find where those tension points are. Again, you can shift left and right, try and mobilize, getting some length to the sides of the ribs. letting the head just drop down to the floor between the shoulders. Just a really nice full spine stretch. Okay? Now he's going to lay right down flat on his stomach. We're going to do what's called the cobra. And the cobra is just simply the head lifts, chest lifts, low back engages, and the glutes start to contract to hold that nice upright position. Okay? And again, we can do this in segments. We can come up and hold for 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whichever. But the point is that we're trying to get that extension through the low back, stretching the whole front line of the entire body. Really nice stretch from hip flexors into the abdominal group, and then even into the upper chest. When he lifts his head up, he's trying to get a nice high lift, extending the head back, really getting a stretch deep into the lower parts of the abdomen. And again, we're going to do 5 of those.
And you might not be able to get all the way up, but even if you just get to the elbows, that's totally fine.
That's right. Now the next one we're going to do is just laying flat. Hands are going to come out to the front of the forehead. And this is just a chest lift. So same idea. This one though is that he's going to lift his hands, his chest up off the floor. The legs stay against the floor. Low back is really working hard to hold that position. He's going to come back down. And again, we're going to do 5 repetitions with this one. So he's going to hold that top position, maybe 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Whatever you're comfortable with, but in this position, it's going to allow you to start to really work on building some of that strength through those muscles. If you find it tough to do with your hands out in front like that, you can bring them to your sides and back behind you. Just makes it a little bit easier, less resistance. Yeah. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is called a scap push-up. So he's going to press up into all 4s here. Arms are going to stay in a straight locked position. And what he's going to do is he's going to drop his chest down between his shoulders, squeezing those shoulder blades together behind him. And then he's going to round himself up by pushing his chest up, lifting his upper back towards the ceiling. And then he's going to press back down. All of the movement happens from the shoulders. So the arms stay straight, and he can go in and out of phase there with the movements and repetitions. Again, 5 to 10 repetitions. Just really creating mobility through the shoulders. This is a great one, especially if you've been on a keyboard for a long period of time. Excuse me, most people have challenges with shoulder problems. It originates because they don't have good mobility through their shoulder blades.
You make it a little bit harder. You can actually move your knees back so you're in a kind of supported push-up position. Yeah, that just adds a bit more resistance. Most resistance is in a full push-up position.
And if you find even the starting point is tough, you can do this up against a kitchen counter or a wall just to try to create some mobility in that regard. Okay? So now we're going to flip over onto the back. And we're going to do a bridge. Okay? So flat on the back, heels come right up against the buttocks, as close to as we can.
You get any closer.
What I want you to think about is trying to pull your belly button in away from your waistband, and then push your hips up towards the ceiling as high as you can, creating a nice flat line from the knees to the hips to the shoulders. Again, hold that top position for 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, then we're going to drop back down. Take a breather. Again, reset, pull the belly button in, lift the hips up. I always like to tell patients too, is like try to think Kegel exercise, like squeeze from the bottom up when you initiate that pelvic control, really engaging those core muscles through your core, your hips, and into your groin, really trying to create some strength through there.
Keeping the low back flat too, so we don't want to have the belly popped up.
Yeah.
Think of driving with the glutes.
Okay, now if you find that this is actually bothering your neck, which sometimes it does for people, another thing I like to tell people is if you can really try to keep your rib cage against the ground and then push your hips up. So now it's really tough, like you really have to work hard to try and keep that movement, right? And then back down, okay? So the next one we're gonna do is called the windshield wiper. And well, this one is sitting in a nice upright position. He's going to sit with his arms supporting him behind him. Knees are bent at 90 degrees. He's just going to let his knees fall to the side and then sweep to the other side. The goal here is to try and push the outer knee and the inner knee against the floor with each repetition. And again, we're going to do about 5 to 10 each side. If you find that that's tough, I mean, a tougher way to do it is actually get more and more vertical. It does put a lot of pressure into the hip joint. Again, conversely, if you lean further away, it takes a lot of the stress and pressure out of the hips. All of those are good. The focus here is really just working on the hip mobility.
Yeah, scouring the hip.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so now we're going to do what's called the founder exercise. So I'm going to have Dr. John stand back up again. And in this position, what I want him to do is he's going to push his hips back behind him as far as he can. Okay? Hands are going to come straight back behind him. So in this position, he's got his back nice and flat. He's holding the weight of his body with his hips. His knees are slightly bent. Really, his weight is shifting back so far that his toes are almost lifting off the ground. In this position, he's going to take a big breath in. He's going to lift his hands up in front of him, almost imagining like he's holding a big bowl of water. So he's really working hard. Straighten your knees just slightly. There we go. And then in that position, he's going to take a big breath in. He's going to let it all the way out. He's going to come all the way down to the ground. In that position, walk your hands forward maybe 4 or 5 inches. And then I want you to lift your hips up as high as you can, trying to straighten your legs out as hard as you can. Should be really feeling a big stretch in the hamstrings. In fact, like that shaking that is going on in the hamstrings right now, that's exactly what we want in order to create length within the hamstrings so that we start to get proper hinging and pivoting within the hip. Big breath in, the hands are going to come back to the shins. Okay? And in that position, I want him to take a big breath in. Hands are going to come back behind him, really loading up that tension in the lower spine and in the hip. Let that breath out, bring his hands all the way up in front of him, and hold that position for another 5 seconds. Really challenge yourself here. Try to turn your thumbs down towards the floor, lift your hands up a little higher, and then squeeze your legs together. 5 more seconds. And let it all the way out and stand all the way back up. Good. So now we're going to take left foot forward, right leg's going to go back. In this position, you want to keep your knee back behind your ankle. Okay? Hands are going to come straight back behind you, and you want to push your chest as far forward as you can. His entire weight of his body is being held up by his left hip there. Okay? So in that position, take a big breath in. You're going to hold your hands all the way up forward. Reach as far forward as you can. Keep holding that position another 3 seconds. And we're going to bring our hands to our chest. And we're going to do 10 good mornings, We're going to pivot only from the hips. As we press our chest forward, the only movement is happening at that left hip and glute muscle. Each repetition, you're trying to create length with that hamstring. You should be feeling a big stretch through your hamstring and in your glute each and every repetition. Then the hands are going to come back behind. We're going to let it all the way up. We're going to bring hands all the way forward again. 3 more seconds here. Take a big breath in. Stand all the way back up. Whew. Okay. Now right foot forward. Left foot back. Again, we're going to start hands back behind us. Chest goes all the way forward as far as you can. In that position, again, the ankle is in front of the knee. We're going to take a big breath in. We're going to bring our hands all the way forward, hold that big bowl of water up. Hold that for a few seconds. All of his body is holding, all of his weight is being held up by that right hip. Take your hands down to your chest. We're going to do 10 good mornings there. Just pivoting from the hip. all of the movement is happening here. The knees and the ankles, everything's staying still. Really good core contraction. Do our 10 good mornings. Every time you press your chest forward, you should be feeling that stretch in the hamstring. When you're done your 10, you're going to take the hands right back behind you. Big breath in. Let it all the way out. Bring your hands all the way up in front of you. And just hold that 5 seconds. Big breath in. Stand all the way back up. Cool. Okay, last one. We're going to do left hip forward, right leg back. This time your hands are going to interlock at the fingers, and we're going to push the palms straight up towards the ceiling. We're going to lean backwards and to the left. So the left foot's forward, we're going to lean back and to the left. So we feel that stretch all the way through the front side of the hip flexor, the right hip flexor. And we're going to take a big breath in, and every time we let that breath out, we're going to lean back a little further, push a little bit more to the side. Big breath in, come on and stand all the way back up. I'm going to switch legs.
Cool. I'll do this one facing you guys. Oh, switch legs.
Yeah. Okay, so interlace the fingers, palms go up towards the ceiling. And we're going to lean backwards and over to the right side this time. So that stretch is happening all the way from the front of the shin, through the front of the thigh, through the front of the abdomen, through his arm, all the way up. Feel a nice big stretch all the way through the hip flexors. Really good exercise to do if you've been sitting or flying or driving for a long period of time. Get out of the car, get out of the plane, do this simple exercise. It makes a world of difference for opening up your hip flexors. Take a big breath in, come on and stand all the way back up. So just a nice little simple flow that we just went through, just to demonstrate the ways in which that you can really start to work on just general mobility. That's maybe about 15 minutes worth of exercise that we can do, and it's just simple mobility things every single day for life. That's the way that we get better, move better, feel better, and function better. Okay? So we hope that helps. And if you have a question, don't hesitate to contact either one of us.
Yep. We'll see you next week.